Good day, everyone. Today we're going to talk about something that affects all of us, such as conflict and stress, whether at work, at school, or in our personal lives. We all face situations where tension rise, misunderstandings happen, or emotions run high. Conflict and stress management involves understanding and handling disagreement and pressure in a healthy and productive way. It focuses on improving communication, reducing tension, and finding solutions that benefit everyone. By managing conflict and stress effectively, individuals can maintain better relationships, make clearer decisions, and create a more positive environment. Before we begin, here is the table of contents for our presentation. These are the main topics we will be discussing. First, we will define what conflict is. Then we will look at the determinants of organizational conflict or the factors that usually cause it. After that, we will talk about different ways to resolve conflict in the workplace. We will also discuss stress in the organization, including the common stressors that employees face. From there, we'll share strategies for managing organizational stress on a broader level. And lastly, we'll cover individual stress management or how each person can personally cope with stress. So first, let's define what is conflict. Conflict is a process that begins when one party perceives that another party has negatively affected or is about to negatively affect something that the first party cares about. In other words, conflict is a disagreement through which the parties involved perceive a threat to their needs, interests, or concerns. Conflict happens when someone feels threatened or disagrees about something important to them, like values, goals, or needs. In short, conflict is a disagreement with emotional tension dahil may mahalaga tayong gustong ipaglaban. Parang tug of war. Walang gustong mag-adjust kaya walang progress. Types of conflict. I'll explain the different types of conflict in a simple and relatable way. First, interpersonal conflict. Ito yung away or clash between two people. For example, si Staff A at si Staff B ay nag-away dahil hindi nagkaintindihan sa group project. Ang gusto ni Staff A, ipasa agad, pero si Staff B, gusto pa niyang i-review ulit. Dahil sa pagkakaiba ng opinion, nagkakaroon sila ng conflict. Second, intrapersonal conflict. Ito naman yung conflict sa sarili mo mismo. Yung inner struggle mo kapag may pinagdidesisyonan ka. For example, may offer ka na trabaho sa abroad na mas mataas ang sahod, pero ayaw mong iwanan ang pamilya mo. So, nasa loob mo yung labanan ng utak at puso. Yan ang intrapersonal conflict. Next is intergroup conflict. Ito yung conflict between groups or communities. For example, may dalawang barangay na nagtatalo kung kanino dapat ilagay ang bagong basketball court. Dahil parehong grupo ay may gusto sa proyekto, nagkakaroon ng intergroup conflict. The next is international conflict. Ito naman yung conflict between countries or governments. For example, ay yung bangayan sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa dahil sa agawan sa teritoryo. Gaya ng mga issue sa West Philippine Sea, kung saan may conflict sa pagitan ng Pilipinas at sa ibang bansa. And lastly, organizational conflict. Ito ay nangyayari sa loob ng isang organisasyon tulad ng workplace or school. For example, sa isang opisina nagkaroon ng hindi pagkakaintindihan si Manager A at si Manager B tungkol sa budget. Pareho silang may gusto sa project pero limitado lang ang pondo. Yan ang organizational conflict. To conclude, conflict is part of life. It can happen at different levels, sa sarili natin, sa ibang tao, sa mga grupo, sa opisina, at kahit sa pagitan ng mga bansa. Hindi natin maiiwasan pero we can manage it by understanding the causes and types. The more we understand conflict, mas madali natin itong i-handle or i-resolve in healthy way.
Assalamualaikum. I am Alsamir E. Mamalo and I am discussing about the determinants of organizational conflict and resolution of conflict. Determinants of organizational conflict. The term determinants refers to the underlying factors that cause or influence conflicts within a workplace. These determinants are often grouped into structural, interpersonal, personal, and environmental dimensions. Following are the factors that can cause conflict. Number one, organizational structure. Matrix or complex structures. Dual reporting lines or overlapping authority often generate confusion and decision making friction. For instance, employees reporting to multiple bosses can create built in conflict situations. Number two, scarce or limited resources. Competition over budgets, equipment, time, or personnel is a frequent conflict trigger between teams or departments. Number three, task interdependence. When employees must rely on others to accomplish tasks, delays and miscoordination can lead to conflict over timelines or priorities. Another set of example of this is when the accomplishment of your goal requires reliance on others to perform their tasks. Next, incompatible goals or competing interests. Differing departmental objectives like sales pushing for fast delivery and operations, focusing on cost control often produce frictions. Next is roles ambiguity and role conflict. Unclear, overlapping, or contradictory job roles create uncertainty and tension between individuals or groups. 6. Communication breakdown. Miscommunication, unclear messages, or a lack of timely feedback frequently give rise to misunderstandings and conflict. 7. Personality differences and interpersonal style clash. Divergent personal styles, values, temperaments, or behavioral approaches, such as type A versus type B, can prompt interpersonal tension. 8. Power, status, and hierarchical tension. Competition over authority, influence, and control both horizontally and vertically can lead to conflict within teams or across levels. Next, perceptual and value-based disagreement. Differing interpretations, values, beliefs, or perceptions lead to conflict even when facts are shared. What one sees as constructive, while others might view as unfair and critical. Next, emotional factors and feelings. Stress, frustration, jealousy, or unaddressed emotions can escalate routine tensions into full blown conflict. Next is unfair and inequitable treatment. Perceptions of favoritism, unequal compensation or recognition, poorly executed appraisal or reward systems breed resentment and disputes. Next is cultural and diversity differences. Cultural misalignment or differing norms such as communication styles or professional expectations can generate misunderstandings and frictions. Organizational changes and external pressures. Restructuring, mergers, or external market stress can heighten uncertainty and push systems and people into conflict. Lastly, performance issues and accountability gaps. Underperformance, unmet expectation, or unresolved responsibilities cause conflict when others perceive the burden falling on them. Resolution of conflict. Conflict resolution is the process are y- two or more parties use formally or informally to settle a dispute peacefully, striving for solutions that satisfy all involved individuals. Number one is negotiation. Parties talk directly, seeking middle ground. Next is mediation. A neutral third party facilitates the discussion. Third, arbitration and litigation. More formal, third party decision making. Number four, conciliation. A third party improves communication and reduces tension without imposing decisions. And lastly, peacemaking or peace building, especially for larger scale or deeper seated conflicts, focus on restoring relationship and power balance. Effective strategies to reach resolution. So, for future managers should know these strategies. Number one, overcome cognitive biases. Acknowledge that everyone perceives fairness differently due to egocentrism and overconfidence. Using mediators or appraisers can help bring objectivity. Number two, avoid escalation. Threats, ultimatums, and aggressive posturing only fuel conflict. Stay calm and focus instead. Number three, use structured communication. The using of I statements instead of you to lower defensiveness. Number four, select an appropriate conflict response style, avoiding for low stakes or emotional times. Number two, competing when speed or principle matters. Number three, accommodating if preserving the relationship matters more. Number four, compromising. Each side gives something. And number five is collaborating. Find a true win win outcome. And lastly, for the effective strategies, is number five, follow a step by step process. Address the issue promptly, clarify exactly what is wrong, bring people together to communicate, generate and discuss options, and agree on a resolution and follow up to ensure compliance. Another topic that I will be discussing to you is about stressors. So, stressors, an event or situation that causes stress. Just about anything can be a stressor as long as it perceived as a danger. So, remember, stress is a response to danger. No danger, no stress. Not all stress is bad. Eustress versus distress. Eustress is the positive one, the good stress. and the distress is the negative one or the bad stress. How can I identify my stressors? If you are always irritable, angry, impatient, or wound up to that person, or overburdened or overwhelmed, anxious, nervous, or afraid, like your thoughts are racing and you can switch off, like you've lost interest or enjoyment in life and you're depressed, a sense of dread, worried or tense, neglected or lonely. Stressors. Number one, physical environment. So this is the example of physical environment: bright lights, noise, discomfort due to excessive heat, discomfort due to excessive cold, weather, or traffic. So, as you can see in our physical environment, if you're in the traffic light, you are going to be so easy to be stressed. So that is an example of physical environment. Number two, social or relational. So in social or relational, example of this is the rudeness or aggression in others, conflict with others, not spending enough time with important people, lack of social support, and loneliness. Number three is the financial. Taxes, unpaid bills, unplanned expenses, the pressure of making ends meet. So sometimes, if especially in the bills, when we still didn't pay our taxes or bills, usually we are being irritated or stressed. So this is the one of the example of financial. Number four, organizational. Overly restricted rules or regulations, school or work deadlines, pressure to pass a course or get a good grade, and aggressive or high pressure work culture. Number five, life events: death of a loved one, losing a job, illness, starting university, work promotion, birth of a child, marriage, winning the lottery. Six is the lifestyle choices: not enough sleep, too much caffeine, too much alcohol, drug consumption, poor time management, and poor diet. And lastly, physiological. Example of this is the poor health, physical illness, pregnancy, injury. Thank you. That's all.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Mariam Samina Bimo Malinta, and I'm gonna be reporting about stress in organization. So, stress in organization is a pervasive issue with significant implications for both individual employees and the overall health and productivity of the organization. This report aims to provide a concise overview of the multifaceted nature of stress in the workplace, its common sources, detrimental effects, and potential mitigation strategies. So, what is organizational stress? Recap ko lang. Organizational stress can be defined as the harmful physical and emotional responses that occur when the requirements of the job do not match the capabilities, resources, or needs of the worker. It arises from a complex interplay of individual characteristics and the work environment, leading to a state of imbalance. So, stressors in the workplace can be broadly categorized into several areas. So, what are those? So first, we have job demands. So under job demands, we have workload. So ano itong workload? So samples of workload is yung excessive long workload natin, or yung long working hours and tight deadlines. So ito yung sabay-sabay na trabaho na binibigay at the same time. So assuming sabay-sabay na work, sabay-sabay din na deadline. So next, we have time pressure. So sa time pressure, ito naman yung insufficient time to complete the task, leading to rushing and errors. So kapag maikling time ang binibigay, syempre wala nang time i-check, so nagkukos siya into errors. So we also have the role ambiguity. So it is the unclear job roles or responsibilities and expectations. Madalas na-experience ito sa mga bagong pasok. So like for example, assuming new employee, hindi agad nabibigyan ng clear job. Usually ang madalas na nagiging trabaho natin kahit malayo sa profession is like for example yung pag-photocopy lang muna. So sample of role ambiguity yun. So next, we also have the role conflict. So contradictory demands from different sources within the organization. So sa organization, hindi maiwasan, merong kanya-kanyang opinion or gusto. So nagiging cause din siya ng stress. And next, we have the lack of control. So limited autonomy over task, work pace, or decision making. So next, we have the interpersonal relationships. So under this, we have the poor management. So sa poor management is the ineffective leadership, lack of support, or unfair treatment by our superiors. Next, we also have the workplace conflict. So ito naman is the disputes or disagreements with colleagues or subordinates. So hindi mahiwasan yung mga hindi pagkakaintindihan sa isang organization. Next, we also have the bullying and harassment. So persistent negative behavior towards an employee. Next, we have the lack of social support. So insufficient emotional or yung the practical support from colleagues or supervisors. Next, we have the organizational culture and structure. So under this, we have the unfairness or the injustice. So under unfairness, injustice is the perceived inequality in policies. So the promotion opportunities or the reward system. So madalas mangyari din ito sa isang organization, yung pagiging unfair. So pwedeng si A, hindi naman ganun kalaki ang naging ambag, pero siya ang nakakuha ng reward, unlike na si B na siyang nagtrabaho. So next, we have the lack of communication. So ito, madalas din mangyari, which is the poor information flow, leading to uncertainty and anxiety. And then, we have the organizational change. Ito yung sa restructuring or mergers or technological advancements without the adequate preparation or communication. And then, we have the lack of career development. So, what is this? This is the limited opportunities for growth, training, or advancement. So, ito yung mga usual trainings na dapat sana kailangan ng isang employee but hindi na ibibigay. So, next, we have also the work-life imbalance. So, first in the list, we have the long commutes. Sa long commutes, ito yung time-consuming travel to and from work. So, minsan, ang layo ng workplace natin from home. Isa rin ito sa nagkukos ng stress. And then, we have the difficulty detaching from work. So, this is the inability to mentally disengage from job responsibilities outside of the work hours. Hindi maiwasan, kahit nasa bahay na, nadadala pa rin natin yung problema sa work. So, yan yung tinutukoy nila sa difficulty detaching from work. So, next, we have the conflicting demands. So, juggling work responsibilities with personal and family commitments. And then, we also have the detrimental effects of organizational stress. So, the impact of organizational stress can be observed at both the individual and organizational levels. So, first, we have the individual effects. Under this, we have the physical symptoms, difficulty detaching from... Oh, wait. Feeling ko na ulit to. Physical... Ito may edit, no? So, physical symptoms. So, under this, we have the headaches, fatigue, sleep disturbances, cardiovascular problems, weakened immune system, and gastrointestinal issues. So, pag stress ka pala, affected ng physical system natin. So, next, ito, stress, usually, ang tinitira nito is ang ating psychological. So, under psychological symptoms, we have first, di mawawala, anxiety. And then, pag may anxiety, punta sa depression, the irritability, the reduced of concentration, and of course, low self-esteem, and yung tinatawag nilang burnout. When it comes naman sa behavioral changes, we have the increased absenteeism. So, ito na yung madalas na pag-absent. And then, the presenteeism. So, attending work while ill. Then, substance abuse, poor decision-making, and decreased job satisfaction. So, if we have individual effects, we also have the organizational effects. So, first, we have the decreased productivity. So, under this is the reduced efficiency, errors, and lower quality of work. And then, we have the increased absenteeism and turnover. So, employees taking more sick days and leaving the organization. So, next, we have the higher healthcare cost. This includes the increased insurance claims and medical expense due to stress-related illnesses. So, under lower moral, a general decline in employee enthusiasm and engagement. In negative organizational climate, so we have the hostile or unsupportive work environment. And then, sa reputational damage, a perception of the organization as an undesirable place to work. So, we also have the medication strategies for organizational stress. Addressing organizational stress requires a comprehensive and multi-pronged approach involving both individual and organizational interventions. So, first, we have the organizational level interventions. Under this, we have the job redesign. So, under job redesign, optimizing workloads, promoting autonomy, and clarifying roles. In improved communication, we have the fostering open and transparent communication channels. Supportive leadership naman is the training managers to be supportive, empathetic, and effective communicators. Work-life balance initiatives offering flexible work arrangements, childcare support, and wellness programs. Stress management programs providing workshops on coping mechanisms, time management, and relaxation techniques. For fair policies and practices, ensuring equity in pay, promotions, and treatment. In conflict resolution mechanism, we have the establishing clear processes for resolving workplace disputes. In employee assistance programs, or what they call EAPs, providing confidential counseling and support services. Next, we have the individual level interventions often supported by the organization. So first, there we have the stress management training. Under this, equipping the employees with personal coping strategies. Resilience building, helping individuals develop the capacity to bounce back from the adversity. And then the mindfulness and relaxation techniques. We have the promoting practices that reduce stress and improve well-being. And lastly, the promoting health lifestyles, so encouraging exercise, healthy eating, and sufficient sleep. Overall, we can conclude that stress in organization is a critical concern that demands proactive attention from employees. By understanding its diverse sources and profound effects, organizations can implement effective strategies to create a healthier, more supportive, and ultimately more productive work environment. So, investing in stress reduction is not merely a matter of employee well-being. It is a strategic imperative for long-term organizational success. So this ends my presentation. Thank you and goodbye.
Hi everyone, I'm Janeville J. Lim, and for the next few minutes, I'll be sharing some practical ways we can manage organizational stress. We all know that stress is part of the job, but when it builds up and starts affecting how we work, how we treat people, and even our health, that's when something needs to change. So, let's talk about what we can actually do and how we can manage them. First is encourage open communication. One of the first steps is to create a workplace where people feel safe to speak up. When people know they can voice concerns without fear of judgment or retaliation, problems get addressed early. Whether they're stressed, confused, or even just have suggestions, employees need to know they'll be listened to, not ignored. Regular check-ins and open feedback sessions can really build trust and prevent stress from piling up silently. Second is to set clear rules and expectations. Stress often comes from not knowing what exactly is expected, or from being expected to do too much. Clearly defining each team member's responsibilities prevents role confusion and overlapping tasks. It's also important to ensure workloads are fair and achievable. Burnout often stems from people trying to meet unclear or unrealistic demands. If people know their responsibilities and their workload is manageable, they can focus more and worry less. Third is to promote work-life balance. We should respect people's time outside of work. A healthy boundary between work and personal life isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. That means avoiding unnecessary after-hours messages and allowing flexible schedules when possible. When people can rest and recharge, they come back more focused and productive. It doesn't make someone less committed. It actually helps them stay energized and more productive. Fourth is provide supportive leadership. Leaders really set the tone. If they're calm, approachable, and empathic, it encourages the rest of the team to open up and manage stress better. Supervisors and managers should model empathy, approachability, and self-care. A leader who listens, checks in, and leads with understanding creates a psychologically safe workplace. Fifth is to recognize and reward efforts. People don't just need direction, they need recognition. Recognition doesn't have to be grand. A simple thank you or public appreciation during a meeting can go a long way. Whether it's a formal award or just an informal shout out, acknowledging someone's effort helps reduce stress and boosts morale. Number 6 is improve organizational processes. Sometimes the stress comes from the system itself. Long processes, redundant steps, and outdated tools. Bureaucratic delays and inefficient systems frustrate employees and add unnecessary pressure. Streamlining procedures and automating repetitive tasks can make work smoother and give people more time for tasks that really matter. Seventh is to foster a positive work environment. Work shouldn't feel like a punishment. Work should feel collaborative, not isolating. When we create a positive atmosphere where there's camaraderie, teamwork, and even a little fun, people feel more supported. Organizing wellness activities or simple team building moments can break routine and reduce stress. 8 is to provide mental health resources. Mental health support is crucial. Access to counselors or employee assistance programs shows that organization takes well-being seriously. But just as important is normalizing these services, so employees don't feel ashamed to ask for help when they need it. 9th is to train for stress management. We also need to give people the tools to cope. Stress can't always be removed, but people can be equipped to handle it better. Workshops on time management, mindfulness, or breathing techniques may seem small, but they're powerful. They help people deal with pressure in healthier, more productive ways. And the last is to monitor and evaluate stress levels. Let's not just guess how people are doing. Let's ask. Organizations must listen to their people. Anonymous surveys, one-on-one check-ins, or feedback boxes can give us a clear picture of employee well-being. Based on this data, policies and practices should be adjusted to better meet employee needs. So to wrap up, stress is a reality in public service, but it doesn't have to be ignored or accepted as normal. When stress is addressed at its roots and managed intentionally, employees become more motivated, collaborative, and effective. With the right strategies, we can build a workplace that not only supports its employees, but also delivers better, more compassionate service to the people. Because when we take care of the people inside the system, we're able to take care of everyone else. So that ends my presentation on managing organizational stress. Thank you for listening.
Hello, I'm Farhan J. Mamasaraya. My assigned topic is about individual stress management organizations. So today I will be discussing a topic that is highly relevant in today's fast-paced and demanding work environments, which is individual stress management in organizations. So let's proceed to the next slide. The introduction. So let's start with a simple question. So what is stress? So stress is the body's response to any situation that requires adjustment or change. So it can come from both positive and negative experiences. And in the workplace, stress is often caused by pressure to meet deadlines, handle responsibilities, or adapt to changes. And then if it is not properly managed or it is unmanaged, stress can negatively affect not just the health of individuals but also the performance of the organizations. That's why learning about stress management isn't just for our personal growth, but it also a key part of being effective in any organizational setting. So the next slide is the sources of individual stress. So there are four main sources of stress in the workplace based on my research book, based on my reference. So the first one is the task demand, the second is the physical demands, and the third is the role demands, and lastly the interpersonal demands. So the first one is the task demand. So these are related to the specific tasks or duties we are assigned. For example, tight deadlines, high workloads, or complicated job responsibilities. It will be it can be stressful. And then the second is the physical demands. So this refer to the work environment such as extreme temperatures, maingay, yung long hours, or unsafe conditions. So this can take a toll on the body, or parang bayad, ito ang kabayaran sa ating katawan pag tayo ay na-stress. So the third one is the role demands. This include stress from unclear job roles or having to manage conflicting responsibilities. So when people don't know what is expected of them, they tend to feel anxious and uncertain. So for example, as an employee, pag hindi mo alam yung job description na binigay sa'yo, so may stress ka, ano ba talaga ang trabaho mo dito sa isang opisina or isang organization. So kailangan the organization clear yung pag-distribute ng job responsibility or yung job description ng isang employee para hindi sila malito, hindi sila always mag-isip kung ano ba talaga yung trabaho nila. And the last one is the interpersonal demands. So these come from interactions with other people, conflicts with colleagues or managers, or simply being part of dysfunctional team. It can also be a significant source of stress. Understanding these sources is the first step to managing them. So as if you are a manager, so you have to understand these sources para ma-manage mo or ma-control mo yung mga empleyado mo, masuportahan mo to prevent them to stress. So the next slide is the symptoms of stress. So stress, it doesn't always show up in obvious ways, but it can affect us physically, emotionally, and behaviorally. So there are three: so the physical, the emotional, and the behavioral. So sa physical symptoms, physically, stress can cause fatigue, headaches, high blood pressure, or even heart problems. So, pag once na ikaw sumasakit yung ulo mo, or parang mabigat yung pakiramdam mo, parang naubusan ka ng energy, isa din yan sa mga physical symptoms na you are experiencing stress. Yan sa emotional naman, it may lead to mood swings or irritability, depression, or feeling overwhelmed. So, pag may mga tao kasi na madali lang or yung sensitive, so they are easy to frustrate or angry. So that is also a sign of emotional symptoms that you are experiencing stress. Then the last one is the behavioral symptoms. So a person might become more withdrawn, less productive, or even start missing work more frequently. So pag may yung isang employee mo ay palaging umabsent or or hindi na siya productive everyday, or yung performance niya ay nag-decline, isa din yan sa sign of stress, like yung behavioral symptoms. And then the next one is the consequences of stress. So, sa sources, those symptoms may start small but can grow into serious problems if it is ignored or unmanaged. So that's why both employees and managers, they need to know or to learn how to identify these signs early, para ma-prevent yung mga ganitong symptoms, para hindi sila ma-experience ng stress. So what are the consequences? So when stress is not addressed properly or managed, the effects can be harmful not just to the individual but also to the entire organization. Example, for the individual, chronic stress can lead to burnout, which is a state of emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion, and it also leads to low morale and may even cause long-term health problems. So sa individual, ang consequence niyan yung katawan natin, naapektuhan yung katawan natin pag tayo ay nakaka-experience ng stress, like palagi tayong pagod, hindi na healthy yung katawan natin, lagi tayong na-burnout, yung mga ganun. So sa sa individual talaga, kailangan talaga i-manage, or kailangan ma-manage mo ito, or ma-prevent mo itong mga symptoms, mga signs of stress. And sa organization naman, so the consequences include reduced efficiency and productivity, so higher rates of absenteeism and greater employee turnover. So once kasi ang individual at organization naka-align kasi yan, pag once yung yung individual is palaging absent, bumababa yung productive niya, so naapektuhan din yung organization. Yung efficiency ng isang organization bumababa, yung mga goals, yung mga objectives ng isang organization hindi na siya ma-achieve, which is dapat ma-achieve siya. So the next slide is the different kind of strategies, and the first one is the individual strategies for stress management. So now let's talk about what individuals can do to manage their own stress. Ang ginahin ko na kailangan ang isang employer, individual, they know how to learn to manage their own stress. So the first is the time management. It is one of the most powerful tools. So you have to create schedules, like creating schedule or setting priorities, and breaking tasks into smaller steps, so it can also help us feel more in control. So kailangan talaga marunong ka mag-manage ng time mo, mayroon kang siniset na priorities para, or yung mga tinatawag na FIFO, first in, first out, unless if may mga urgent na pinapatrabaho yung manager nyo or yung head nyo. Then the next one is the exercise. So it is another excellent method. So the employer individual must have a regular physical activity so that the stress hormones can reduce and improves our mood. Then yun, kailangan talaga yung isang employer or individual, meron siyang regular physical activity. For example, like after mo mag-work or yung after mag-out, pwede ka mag-walking, jogging, or other activities para ma-lessen or ma-reduce yung stress hormones mo, para mag-improve din yung mood. And then the next one is the relaxation techniques or the meditation, such as breathing or simply taking breaks during the day. So it helps the body to recover from tension or from the parang burnout or from stress. So kailangan talaga itong mga ganitong strategies para ma-boost or para ma-reduce yung mga stress na na-experience natin. And then the last one is the social support or seeking social support. So it is also a very important or very vital for individuals, or not just for individual or employees. So kailangan you have to talk with your family or friends, or pwede ka din humingi sa mga professionals para para ma-consult or para malaman mo kung you are experiencing a stress. So these techniques help individuals build resilience and maintain their well-being. So the next slide is the organizational. So if merong strategic individual, so dapat ang organization din meron din. So while individuals have their part to play, organization also need to take responsibility in reducing workplace stress. So here are some key strategies organization can implement. Na first is the work design. So making jobs more manageable by adjusting workloads or rotating tasks can help prevent workload. So if that specific individual or employee na parang dami na siyang ginagawa, tapos dinagdagan pa ng head or manager, mas lalo siyang nababurnout. So parang kailangan siya, to be fair, yung job distribution. So if meron namang ibang mapagbibigyan ng trabaho, doon mo na lang ibigay, kasi kailangan yung mga subordinates mo as a manager, kailangan yung mga subordinates mo is fairly yung treatment. Hindi dahil magaling isa, doon mo lahat ibibigay yung trabaho. And then the next one is employee assistance programs or EAP. So these are services provided by the company to help employees deal with personal or work-related problems. So this also is very important for the organization para masuportahan nila ang kanilang mga tao or mga employee if they are experiencing stress. Like they have my consultation program sila, ganun. And then the next one is the supportive leadership. So managers, ang managers dapat know how to show empathy, provide sila ng feedback sa kanilang mga employer, individuals, and are approachable. Approachable dapat ang isang manager, kasi si manager are the role model of the organization. So dapat kung ano yung dapat gawin na sa manager, gawin mo, like show empathy to your co-workmates, not just subordinates, but kasi tao man din yan sila. Then kailangan nag-provide ka of feedback for them pa, like para gumagaan yung pakiramdam nila, you're appreciating their work, ganun din. Tapos kailangan as a manager, you're approachable, kasi pag once hindi ka approachable, yung mga employees mo, subordinates mo, nahihiyan na magtanong sa'yo, mas lalo silang na-stress. So wala silang mapagsasabihan na kanilang mga problema related sa work, but not work, but also the personal problems. So the next slide, the next one is the flexible work arrangement. So allowing employees to work from home adapt flexible hours, or take mental health days are proven ways to improve work-life balance. So these are the strategies that create a healthier and more supportive work environment. Then the next slide is the manager role. So dito it talks about the manager side. So manager play a critical role in stress management. So they are often in the best position to notice changes in employee behavior, and kailangan ma-intervene ito as early as possible. So here are some ways that managers can help their subordinates or their employee. So the first is they need to be observant, or they have to be recognize the signs of stress. Kasi if an employee seems exhausted, withdrawn, or irritable, so that may be a sign of stress. So kailangan as a manager, kailangan alam mo yung mga signs ng mga ganyan para malaman mo, supportahan mo agad yung mga subordinates mo. And the second one is they must provide open or regular communication. Then there are clear expectation and parang achievable yung in-expect mo na objectives, goals, kailangan achievable para hindi ma-stress din yung mga subordinates mo. And the third one is the promoting work-life balance. So they should encourage work-life balance by setting realistic deadlines and being flexible when needed. Then the last one is the maintaining clear communication. So managers should lead by example. So if they handle stress well, others are more likely to do the same. So the next slide is the case example. So here, let me give you a brief example to show how stress management works in practice. For example, si Kim is an employee who had been under heavy stress due to multiple deadlines and unclear instruction. He started coming to work late, so his performance dropped and he became less engaged in meetings. So her manager noticed the changes and had a private conversation with him. So after listening to Kim's concerns, the manager adjusted his workload and allowed him to work from home twice a week. So after a few weeks later, si Kim became more productive and engaged. So his stress levels dropped nagbaba and her overall satisfactions improved. So mas lalo siyang gumagana magtrabaho kasi nabigay yung na parang there's a resolution to his problems or concerns. So this shows that simple lang siya and timely intervention from management can lead to significant improvements. So conclusion. So to summarize or to sum up everything, stress is a serious issue that affects both the health and health of individuals and the performance of organizations. So we've discussed the sources and symptoms of stress, the consequences of ignoring it or unmanaging it, and the strategies to manage it both at the individual and organizational level. Also, stress management is a shared responsibility. So when employees take care of their health and when organizations support their workforce, it really creates a healthier, more productive environment for everyone. The next slide, that's all for today. So this presentation is based on the following sources. Yung si Griffin, Ricky, W. Andun na sa first slide ko. That's all. Thank you.